People feel, hey, so I expect people to be eating while going through this. That's okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings. And Brent is going to wander around the room some during this. So if you experience technical difficulties, Brent is my proxy hand to come and help fix things. And if you experience more technical difficulties, then talk to me afterwards. I realized I made a critical mistake when I did this, named this folder. I put the word final on a software package. Never the right thing to do, right? So any event, what I... For the conference. Yeah, it's final for Dartmouth. It was, so any event. Well, what I'm going to talk about today is how to collect these EPA ratings that we've been talking about using a software application called Surveyor. Actually, I'm going to be discussing the software that we collect ratings with, and then the data utilities that we have to make getting ratings into a data set that's useful, quick and easy. Okay. A little backstory on this project. We were collecting Arabic data across the world, and we needed something to collect these ratings, and we found, oh, wow, like doing stuff in Arabic is hard. So maybe we need a more flexible application to make that possible. So that was sort of, this project was one of those classic born by necessity kinds of projects. All right, so first thing is I want to point out that the tutorial, because there's something I'm going to miss, is in the folder as well as being passed around. And in the tutorial, for those of you who want to do Surveyor with Qualtrics, there's a very valuable URL in there to my colleague Brent Curdy's website. And he can help you go basically replicate a EPA scale in Qualtrics. But we're going to talk about Surveyor today. And one reason why we're going to talk about Surveyor is that Surveyor is designed specifically to do EPA studies, and so therefore it supports certain kinds of, it makes it easier to support certain kinds of randomization and collect quality data measures that aren't as easy to get out of Qualtrics. All right, so Surveyor conceptualizes implementing a study as sort of three major sets of tasks. The first task is running the study that I'm going to talk about, but like in causal order, you would usually be designing a study, piloting it, and running it, right? And then we're collecting and analyzing data. Today, because we have a bunch of pragmatists in the room that just want to know how to do this, we're going to start with running a study, and then we'll see how far we can get on that, and then we're going to go and say, well, how do we get the data out of the study, because that would be super cool, and then we can touch on how to design a study as the sort of last set of topics. So the first thing I want you to do is, if you have the Surveyor application folder on your desktop, open that folder up. And the first application I'm going to talk about is not the Smusher. So I worked on developing this software with my brother, and he likes using interesting names like Smushers and Fatteners. I tried to encourage him to change the utility names, but at some point of pride, he just didn't. So we have Smushers and Fatteners. So I have the Surveyor 3.0 application highlighted. I'm going to double click it. And you should see Surveyor 3.0 coming up. And I'm going to reduce this application folder right now. So we're going to be asked the participant number. This is a sort of data safety feature. We don't want to collect data for which we have no participant number. When we're running studies, generally we think of the experimenter as doing the first two tasks that I'm going to display. So I'm going to go Dartmouth 2. Obviously, I could call it something else. The reason why I've done that is I've done test 1, test 2, test 3 a million times this morning, and Surveyor does not let me use the same participant number in a 24-hour period, because as another data feature, we don't want to write over our same data because we made a mistake and we did when entering a participant number. Participant 305's data disappears because we entered 305 twice. So I'm going to do Dartmouth 2. I'm going to hit OK. And we have 3 conditions. And again, this is something we're conceptualizing the experimenter as doing, or the person doing this study. I'm going to hit condition 2. They're not substantively different from each other. And now I'm going to say, so we can have them, this is a point to talk about. We can have demographic questions, and we call them survey questions, to differentiate them from ratings questions in the documentation. We can have them either appear before or after the concept rating phase. The reason why that's important is there are certain kinds of questions you might want before, because if, for instance, you think that errors and sentiments or patterns are in some ways related to the group of people, then you might want to have a question before, as opposed to if I'm doing, if I'm evoking a gender, and I'm doing an impression, or I'm doing collecting ratings on gender, I probably don't want to trigger gender in the demographic questions, right? Because that might change my EPA ratings. I want a truly out of context rating. So I'm not in I don't go to Mount Holyoke, Amherst, so I'm going to select neither. This is a training module. I'll show you how you can add another condition during the tutorial so that we can free ourselves of this tyranny. All right, and I'm going to submit, and it's going to go, oh, are you ready for this tutorial? We are. We're ready for the tutorial. It's OK. All right, so we realized that impression change types of questions, or these semantic differential questions, are not ones that everyone encounters in daily life. So we're training people a little bit about how the scale works to avoid massive confusion. Yeah?
If I'm not mistaken, that the wording for the tutorial is the same as it was in the original survey.
Yes, we did try to echo exactly Surveyor 2.0's wording when we created the software.
I just want to point out that this is like the class, this in many ways it's just similar to the class.
The original Surveyor improved.
Right. So I was told that, hey, we're going to be rating concepts, and now I'm going to say, okay, we're going to introduce the idea of a semantic differential by looking at rating helping someone. Basically, I'm going through these steps so you know what the participant goes through and what's going on. So I'm going to hit next, and the participant, you could hit next without moving this bar. I am hoping the participant moves the bar, but this is just to get a sense that we're moving things along this scale. We're going to introduce now the scale with the segmentation, and I'm moving this around. Okay, now this is and we're introducing the dimensions. So now we're saying, okay, things are good or bad. We're basically getting people into the frame of mind that we want them to be. And I'm going to do powerful. Yeah, helping someone. I think helping someone's powerful. I have to have power to be able to help people. And then active is kind of confusing. Don't be totally surprised if someone sees active. Helping someone's not too hard. But overall, activity is something that not everyone thinks of as something that goes along with identities. Behaviors is easier. So helping someone, I'm going to say that's pretty active. But if you get a question about activity and rating, don't be prepared for that. Yeah.
I was just going to point out with this as well that if you notice, John's moved the slider already, but before he moved it, the submit button was light color. Yeah. And sometimes what will happen is people will be like trying to click submit because they'll know that this is a tutorial and won't realize that they have to actually move the slider. Yeah. So they'll be like, I'm trying to submit, won't submit. It's like, well, you got to move the slider.
Yeah, so that's because I'm forcing you to do the tutorial. You can't quite.
It's actually really ideal for them to run into this particular set of problems before you start getting like time data, like how response time data and stuff like that.
It can alert you as a researcher that other people are moving the direction.
So now I'm going to go through and I'm submitting on this, and we're basically practicing. Okay. So this is forcing me to practice neutrality. So we don't allow people to rate things by just hitting click and not moving the slider, because rating fatigue comes in and you just want to get done with the survey. So we make you take the cursor and move it, and then we move it. But we want to have people think of neutrality as actually a purposeful thing as opposed to a default assumption. So by making people move it and move it back to neutrality, we're really saying, well, being neutral really is neutral, not just a default thing. Okay, so I'm submitting. And now, okay, you know how I said final and software is never ending? You're going to see why that's the case. So I can do this, and I'm going to hit change. Notice there's no concept there. That's because it works in the rest of the program. But in the tutorial, I haven't rated a real concept, so there's no concept to change. And I'll show you in a real concept in a second, but there should be a list, and for every fully completed concept, meaning you rated EP and A, it appears, and then you can go back to it and you can re-rate it. But we're in the tutorial, and it doesn't know that. I'm fixing that now. But if you take this version, you run with people, that might be a slight source of confusion. You assure them it'll never happen again and move on. But okay, so I'm going to. Oh yeah, right. I need to X out of this, and I can. And the person actually could have not changed it, but we told them they could, and hit next.
Hey, John,
Yeah.
On that slide in particular, there's actually, the top right is actually a next button.
Yes.
Sometimes try to click submit, which is the normal way to progress, but people will overlook the submit the next button at the top right.
So
That does happen too.
so user comments will do.
The software before that, these would be like the top two questions.
Yeah,
usually.
exactly.
All right.
It's like I can't go as like we have to do the slider, and though I can't go as like the next button.
So if I now can skip, right? So this is the final option. I'm going to skip. Of course, we don't want people skipping all our concepts, so we make life hard. Well, that's not really why. We want to know why people skipped concepts, so we give options. I will say that you could have actually programmed
Things like prostitute and rapist and stuff like that. So I actually really wanted to know whether or not it was a discomfort with the subject matter.
And you could change these. So if you have other reasons why people could skip, I can show you, well, hopefully we'll get to it. But in the documentation, you can change that. You could have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 prompts. I'm going to say, a polymath makes me uncomfortable because I am not one. And I'm going to submit. And I've skipped. All right, and I'm going to say, now I'm going to do OK. And now we are in the land of rating real things. So I have a black person is, and I'm going to rate them as powerful, submit, and active.
Now keep in mind, this is the traditional ACT thing.
Submit.
Where the endpoints of the scale
Are farther.
randomized.
Oh yes, that's right.
So sometimes good is to the right, sometimes it's to the left. Sometimes powerful is to the right, sometimes it's to the left.
I could change that. Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that. That's actually probably the number 3 that goes ask about things.
Yeah.
People say like, I just rated this to go back. And it's like, oh, well, and that's also, again, religious researchers.
Yeah.
You know, this is the like, to make sure you do the analysis on the person. Because they'll say, I just rated this, and it's like, no, you didn't actually scale
Yeah.
endpoints, but they didn't expect it to.
Yeah, and so this has all of the psychometric properties of, sort of like our best practices or whatever, where the scale endpoints are randomized, the order of the questions is randomized, and the order of the scales, the EPA scales, is also randomized.
Now, if you're doing, I will say these things are also configurable. So if you were running some study and you didn't want to do that, I'll show you how you could change that setting just to make to demonstrate that. But
Also, this doesn't need Java.
no, well, it is Java,
It is
but
Java,
but
but
it,
you can download this on any machine.
right.
And it just runs without needing any other background software to go. So I think that's one of the biggest functional advantages to this.
So let's say I want to change. So I'm just demonstrating that change works to reassure myself that life is good. Right? I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to hit submit. And I'm going to go, well, I actually don't think it's going to allow me. Notice it puts it at where I rated it at. So maybe I'm okay with powerful, but I didn't like active. I think I should do more active. I submit, but I was okay with good, submit. This will, both the past both the old rating and the rating that they change it to will be recorded in the data set. So you can look for all changed values, what was the general tendency of those changes, and if there's some systematic reason why you think that would happen, that would be relevant. Okay, yep.
So I think that the change part, that the person, correct me if I'm wrong, you said have rated the concept on all three dimensions before it will appear.
Yes, that's right.
So if someone's going and they click the evaluation thing, like, oh, I want to change that, they can't go back to change it until they also click, oh, it's not activity. So they can't change it in the middle.
That's right. Now, I'm just going to demonstrate skip when it's, oh, sorry, Linda.
I finally got Surveyor to download it. Can you tell me which file?
Oh, yeah, okay. So Brent will come along and help, but it's actually called Surveyor 3, which is sort of short for 3.0, but Dot is a special character.
And it's not Surveyor 30.
No, it's not. So I'm going to just demonstrate skip here in the real deal, just because teenagers make me uncomfortable, and they do make me uncomfortable, and I'm going to submit. Now, so this is what rating concepts is like. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that one makes me uncomfortable as well. But I'm going to exit out to end the discomfort. And but to say, I could move along. There'll be an end screen at the end of the concept rating phase, alerting people that you're done with this part of the study. And we'll move to the demographic questions that I have programmed at the end of the study. But I'm not going to inflict you with the whole condition right now. So I have this other safety feature that came out from basically people in UGA going, it would be really nice if you could do this. People see the X button, and for various reasons, they hit it. And you don't really want them to exit out of the application unless they really want to exit out of the application. You don't want it to be an accident.
You used to delete all of your data in the old Surveyor if somebody closed the window.
It would not do that in this one, but we just don't want that to come up. So, but we can have a secret. We can have a secret word. In our case, it's training. I'll show you where you can specify your secret word a little bit later. And go, okay, woohoo! All right, now can I find? Now we made some data. It wasn't great data. It was actually pretty terrible data. But we have two folders. So if you're looking at this application thing, what is question data? What is terms data? Why do you have two folders? What's up with that? So every participant has a question data set. The question data set is all the survey demographic kinds of styles of questions. And these are all the records. At the end of the day, I basically can select the participants and move them over to another folder. I advise you on your backup drive to have folders that are identically labeled as these folders. It makes using the data utilities that I will demonstrate in a little bit easier to do. But basically, what the poor young graduate student RA's task is at this point is they would highlight the new you can sort by when modified if you really want to make sure you're good, or just never sort and do it at the bottom. But any event, I would select these, say control, copy, copy it, move it over, just like any text file, to a backup folder to make sure that my data is good and backed up. I can go, the terms data refers to the ratings themselves. Now let's actually look at what one of these folders looks like. I'm opening up in Notepad. You can open it up in Excel, and it would be a little bit more intelligible. Why do I have a bunch of 1000s? That's stuff that is that I skipped. That is missing value in Surveyor speak, right? So if you see -1000, that means that they didn't rate it. I'm just bringing that up because that can be it's not 999 and it's not a period, and so that might be a source of confusion. So we have a user ID. This is notice this is a concept level data set. So we have, they're organized by, oh, never mind. We're not at concept level. We'll get there. Never mind. So basically, this is all my Dartmouth 2s. This is the things that I did or didn't do, and my ratings. Now, what if I want to make a data set out of this? Because, this is kind of, these little folders, I'm not expecting you to aggregate them in SPSS or SAS or something else. That would be incredibly painful. We use a new utility, and the utility is the smusher. Blame my brother, that's his name. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, it's okay to select either folder. I generally select the question folder, but select the folder. And then I'm going to hit open. And then I should see something called Surveyor Training /standard. Well, let me actually open this up in Excel because that would be a little clearer. Open with, not Notepad, that's awful. Actually, why not I open Excel?
You have to do it that way.
That's so not fun.
Default, yeah.
Where is Excel? Isn't that exciting?
So, John, I'm going to say what just happened was, if I'm not mistaken, it just converted the file, like the
Yep.
basically what survey created out of your data, and turned that into a spreadsheet for you.
Right.
Is what it does. Yeah, so now it's a
It just,
spreadsheet.
jams all of that text data together.
Okay, so I want to get to my desktop, and there's Surveyor File. Wow. Other people's computers. All files. And basically we want to look. If you see that /standard, that means that's a smushed long form file. And we usually do UTF-8. The thing about that, the reason why we do that is that supports non-ASCII characters, which if you're doing Arabic, that would be.
I think you can use, typically people use anything, because it records it however you program.
Yep. So
If you're working with the Arabic data.
So I have an experiment. I could have called my experiment anything. In this case, it's training. That's going to get that from the folder name. I have a condition, the condition that they did. I have the date that they did it. I have a user ID. And then I have all these demographic characteristics. And then if we scroll over here, we have, and we'll go over some more of these measures and things, but we have the concept ID here. This is important because the concept ID, it could be in English, and the term that people see could be in Arabic. So basically you can still know what the thing is in the data and not be stuck with like looking at something you can't interpret. And here we have the term order, so that says when was that concept rated compared to other concepts. And then we have these evaluation, potency, and activity, our ratings. And then we have a bunch of diagnostic measures that I'll talk about a little bit. But this is what the standard file coming out of Surveyor is going to look like after you aggregate all those individual files using the smusher. So I'm going to X out for now.
Quick question.
Yeah.
When you first run the smusher, are you saying we should select all of the question data folders at once to do the aggregation?
You just need to select one of the folders and do open, and it will
Okay.
read the files from both and compile them.
So if we have like 4 question data folders, it'll figure that out.
Yeah, so that you don't want to do. No, yeah, you don't want to do that. You want to keep them separated. So
That's all we need to know. That's I don't need
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
So the next thing I want to talk about is now we're, I can make also a wide format. So we have this thing called a fattener. Again, my brother's name.
It does make sense.
It does. It makes wide, long formats, big formats. And that is his logic behind this. And I'm going to pick, I could actually do this. This is kind of fun. This utility could be used on any data set, not just a Surveyor, as long as it's a text file. So if I had another long data set and I wanted to make it wide, I could choose that one. But in this case, I'm going to go select, let me scroll over. there's my standard Surveyor Trainer standard log. I'm going to open. Okay, what do I mean by reserved term list? I have an example of a reserved term list in the tutorial, but what that does is it says, hey, wide format is really an inefficient data format. Do you really want to display all the terms? Because we could save you some space if you just tell us the terms you like, you care about. So here is a way of subsetting from the long format the set of terms you want to have changed into a wide format. But if you don't give it a list, which is perfectly fine, it will do it all. All right, now, these are all the things that you could have. By default, it selects them all. But these are all the data quality measures that we have in here. So we can look at the value of the slider, because if the endpoints vary and you want to go, well, do people always rate to the left or to the right? That's a way of isolating that. People do that, naughty people. We have E-time means for the concept, the evaluation dimension. Like let's say I had mother and I was rating EP and A. That's the amount of time it took for E. Sometimes that can be useful for isolating, is there a particular dimension that's causing problems? That's particularly we found to be useful. Familiarizing people that have never seen the scale in different cultures. That can be nice. You can look at differences. Then we've got so actually the slider value is the slider value in axis direction. So actually the axis direction is going to get all the left, all the right. The slider value is going to get how far did you go. The presentation order out of EP and A, which one was presented first, second, and third, which is helpful. Was changed, and as I said, was changed will have both the old rating and the one it was changed to. And then we've got was skipped and reason skipped. And I'm going to say everything's okay. And then I have a fattened log, and this thing's a monster. I'm just going to open this up. Oh God, that's awful. So you can do that in Excel, and it looks better. It's going to be in columns, and it'll be easy to read and so forth. But basically, this is a way to get a wide format file without you having to do it in your stats package if you want, and to allow you to subset it before you ever get it into your stats package. So those are the two data utilities. Now we move into making my study, which I always find to be the more fun part. You know, like now I have some terms and I want to do stuff. So I kind of want to do this a little bit interactively. And like we're going to like make an example study, if you will. We'll see how this works. First of all, I want to talk about the conditions file. All right. The conditions file says, oh, now I don't want to look at it in this text format because I want to add things, and it's easier to add things when I'm looking at it in Excel. So I'm going to go new. By the way, we're at 108. When do we end? Just to make sure I'm not.
It all starts up at 1:30, so if we could give people a little bit of time to like.
Okay, so like 1:20.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not choosing a default thing. I'm doing. Oh God, that's right. I have to go to. I apologize. Here's Excel, and I'm going to open this file, and I'm going to do desktop, and I'm going to do Surveyor Final, and of course, I want all files because they're text files. All right. So I'm going to open this conditions file, and I don't care about right. And I'm going to widen these out just a little bit so we know what we're talking about and how everything works together. All right. So condition, I can add a new condition. And we're going to call this condition 4. This is saying, Surveyor, there's going to be a condition 4, look for a file. We're going to make a new condition file. Look for a file that's the condition 4 file. Now I'm going to go, experiments really just saying they all should live together. This is one way to be like, okay, in some future, if you're aggregating different files or something like that, and you had them from different experiments, it's just an indicator variable. But I'm going to do training. Interface elements text, we're just going to use interface elements text. It's the last thing we'll talk about today. It's the most kind of painiac thing. But you can modify anything that is a text in the Surveyor program. You can change that element. So you can change the alphabet, you can wording, anything.
Is that where the password thing
Nope, we'll get there. Yeah, all that. All right. So we're just going to do that. The demographic questions text, we're going to say it's good enough. Yes. But we're going to change it because I need to have Duke on there. I don't go to Mount Holyoke. All right. And then I'm going to say, what file should this come from? And this file is going to be called condition4, because I'm very creative, .text. And then this would say, do I randomize the term order? Heck yeah, I randomize the term order, right? Do I randomize the access order? That depends on your thing. We generally do, so I'm going to do true, right? And do I randomize the polarity? That's saying that literally like that good is going to appear to the left and appear to the right, and that's going to be randomized. And I'm going to do that. Oh, I'm going to do true. What am I doing? Thank you. Right, cool. And I'm just going to save it. So this is like the meta file. Yes, I know Excel. You hate the fact that I didn't save it as Excel. I understand. You're going to punish me for this.
As a sidebar, it's a really good idea to make these edits in Excel and not in the text file, because I found that the tabs, you can't really tell where the breaks are easily, and things get out of alignment in the columns. So, like,
with one caveat, the interface file.
Yes.
Either you're going to have to use the HTMLizer. You're like, what is that? That basically all that does is strips out. So Excel adds annoying quotation marks around things it doesn't know, like HTML tags, and then it reads. It basically would read the HTML tags, and you're like, oh, I don't want that.
If it lacks
So you can strip those out. I would like. There's a little program called what is it called? It's Notepad++. Notepad++ is fantastic. Download it. Change the interface file in Notepad++. Or I guess you can use the HTMLizer. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the config file. And I'm going to open this up. And this is where you figure out where your magic password is, by the way. All right. I'm not going to change anything. I'm just showing you. So I can go, OK, where's the conditions file coming from? They're coming from these files called conditions.txt. Yes, I'm going to randomize the order. Experimenter mode. Experimenter mode's fabulous. All right, so you have 100.
ever click through
All right.
a study before you pilot it like 1,000 times?
Yes.
Make sure it looks right?
So if you imagine you have 100 concepts that you want, but you want to make sure that you don't have a misspelling on your concepts, but you don't want to rate all those concepts. What experimenter mode does, if you go to true, it skips the tutorial and allows you to just skip through the concept. Basically, you can just skip through really fast so you can order the concepts. Yes?
So I mean, where this was born from is when we're doing Arabic. As you know, Arabic uses its own special character set. And what would happen though is when it was translated by Surveyor, it would input spaces like between letters because it didn't recognize the code, like the UTF code it was using. And so, but we didn't have a consistent way to check it. So what we had to do is literally just see how it read each word. We had to click through the entire survey to check every one, make sure there was none of these typos. Basically, the computer was introducing, and we found them, and that's go back and fix it. But yeah, it just took forever to troubleshoot because we had to put through 300 ratings.
Thus, experimenter mode was born. The other thing I'll say is if you're the poor RA and you forgot the password, or maybe this was the first time, you can always look at the config file really quick and get them out. All right, OK, so I'm going to exit out here because I'm not changing any of that. That's fine. Demo questions. This is how I get to add my my Duke thing because I just have to. Where's Excel? And I'm gonna open, well, at least that was easier. Open this up. I'm gonna go to desktop, Lord. Fortunately, you only have to do this like once, right? So when you're configuring this stuff. And demo questions. One important thing, you can change row values, don't change the column headers. That's the part that Surveyor needs. So any row thing you can change, but if you change a column value, then the program is going to get confused. All right, so I'm also going to make these big really quick. Question text, sub ID, yeah, well, right. And then question. So question is just literally, why, wait, did I hit the right, yeah, okay. So this is allowing me to center the question. That's what those HTML tags is doing. But how to add a question, I would simply add a new question. Actually, am I, yeah. Where? Yeah, I just want to respect, that's too much work, right? So question ID, that's just the name of the question, so Surveyor knows it, okay. Sub ID says, do I want to be able to skip it? So sub ID, you can group questions into blocks and order the presentation order by having, the concept is all the same thing. So if, say, for instance, you had math problems, and math would be the question thing, and then you're like 1, 2, 3, 4. Sub ID is a way to block them that they're going to appear at the same time while the rest is randomized. And then if we move over here, right answer would be, and right answer is kind of a way of getting at data quality checks. Like, okay, if you can't answer 2 + 2 = 4, then you might not be paying attention to the survey. So this is an instance where right answer might be helpful. Then we have our question. And let me scroll. Right. It's hard. The glare on this is killing me. Okay. Question. I'm going to make this a little bigger. And I'm going to go, okay, so let's see. Oh, there's my Mount Holyoke one. I just want to add an option. Adding an option to everything after the 6th column. So I'm going to go, no. That's all it took to add a new selection to this question.
And you might notice the column right before the question and answers, ask after
Yes.
terms. I think that's what it's called, ask after terms. So the fact that the top one doesn't have a 1 next to it, that's why that was the first thing that showed up when you did the rating study, but then it went straight into the ratings. I put all my demographic questions other than that afterwards, and the first was just an indicator of which data set basically I was. Right, so you can use that one or leaving it blank to kind of sort things that go before and after your concept ratings.
Yes.
If you do that beforehand, is it
You just don't have a 1. You just either leave it blank or have 0.
going to say 3 questions you want to have first, and they all don't have ones, and then you go to order either way they appear?
Oh, yes. That's right. That's correct.
These aren't randomized, are they? Demographic questions?
You can randomize them.
Where does that happen?
You add it to the config file, and now I can show you what the option is. Yes.
So kind of related to our question, that's partly what you can do with the sub ID actually. So the ask after can work with sub ID so that you can change, although not randomized, so that you can change the order of the question.
I just kept mine in a stationary.
Yeah, it'll read by row unless it's changed in the sub ID.
So let's actually talk about that for a second. Where do I find options, all these mysterious options that we can do? We can open the log, and what the log does is it not only tells us what happened, but it also gives us everything. If it didn't happen, if we didn't specify it, it appears here. So for instance, like what does no random question order mean? That means I didn't randomize the demographic questions or the survey questions. If I add this option, if I literally go like this, copy paste, all right, and then I go over to my config file.
This is basically a way that you can introduce new parameters into how the thing
Yep.
runs that aren't already in the config file.
Then I would add true, and I would simply just do true, and then that would allow me to randomize the question order. So either interface I'm not doing that. I'm gonna go exit. No, don't save. Bad. Right. So either any option in Surveyor that isn't already being done, any default that the program is providing is being reported in that log, and you can use that option and configure it and customize it. So that's kind of a fun feature. Now, the next thing is, how do I make a condition? Well, literally a condition, I would just make a new file. That would be the condition4 file. Actually, let me open this in Excel too, because this will make this a little bit easier to go. And I go open. I go desktop. Wow, this glare. Okay. And I just show you what a condition file is. I'm just going to do finish. It has only two elements. It has a term ID, which is the unique identifier in your data set for that term. Actually, one suggestion for the community, Brent and I have struggled with this for years. Make your unique it would be cool to make your unique identifier numeric. It would help a lot. But at least with this, unique identifier is going to be the same across all the data that you collect using Surveyor. That's fine. But we have these text unique identifiers. They're probably not actually the best way to go, but whatever. I will say one nice thing about the term ID, though, like in right, I was about to say that though. The one nice thing is like if you did make them numeric, then you are going to have a code book or something. So it's sort of a balancing act on what you want. But Arabic in particular, right? So,
and also for processing file.
Yeah. Right.
Like this, the I, like the.
Oh yes, that's right. This is. Yeah, that's right. So this was a cool innovation that the Georgia team came up with a couple years ago. Is they had like a couple of neat ways of making the data more interpretable. So an I underscore means identity underscore.
Numeric things at some point, but when you're doing the initial file processing, I find this to be really a lot easier.
And the other important thing is I could have a term ID, and then the phrase is whatever they see. Whatever they see could be in a different language, right? And so that's how I have my term ID and then something in a unique language. Yeah.
This is the thing, especially if you're using Excel to view this, which makes sense because it's so quick. But if you Excel doesn't, you need a special package to read Arabic characters. That by modifying the Arabic in Excel and then saving it is how we got the problem where we need. It was
The
created
quotation marks problem too.
Notepad++.
And also that's where basically the Surveyor mode or experimenter mode came from, is because.
Oh, right.
The other issue is you probably saw that I formatted my demographic questions with HTML code so that they looked a particular way.
Yes.
Thing you can do with this, which is really nice. But Excel puts phantom quotation marks around your
Yep.
Excel code without you knowing it. So when you look at it in Excel, they're not there. But when you go back and open it up in text files, there are quotation marks that ruin the whole thing. So you have to go back, if you choose to use Excel to set it up, you have to go back into the text file and get rid of all your quotation marks, which is really stupid. But just if you have that problem, just so you know what's happening, it's quotation marks.
Okay, last file type just to introduce this, that you know it's here. Again, I'm going to do all files. Scrolling down, and I'm finding my interface elements file. And I'm going to do, actually I am going to do this one as UTF-8. Well, maybe not. Forget it. I'll do ANSCII for today. So if it's an interface element and you didn't specify it in the log, then it will, or you didn't specify it, it will appear in the log, and you could literally just add it to the bottom of the list here. But literally everything that's going on, so notice I could change, I wouldn't do it, but I could change the segmentation wording. You see neutral here, I could put in a different word. Again, I wouldn't recommend it.
I mean, the implication is that you could actually use this to run non-ACT rating studies if you are,
No, wait.
if you're like comfortable editing.
Well, we're not, you're right. And this is also the way that you can easily make all your interface elements into a non-Roman alphabet, right? So this is, it sees this, you change the wording, it's going to appear as that wording. So I hope that this demonstration, because we're at 1:25 and I want to give people some time between sessions, does not scare you about Surveyor. Surveyor is supposed to be easy to use. It's highly configurable. It just depends on text files and editing the rows of those text files. You don't need to have any familiarity with a programming language to make changes and to implement a study.
Most of these elements you don't even have to change unless
No.
you want to. A standard study would rely on these.
Yeah, if you're doing this in English, basically the only files you're going to have to change is add a conditions, make condition files that have the sets of terms you want to rate, and change the conditions folder to say Surveyor, please, to call those files, and that's it. So you would be changing 2 files from the default Sur training module. Yes?
Just to put this in perspective, if this sounds complicated, and this is something that you can do. You can learn how to do it in a very short period of time. You get a little help, then you know how to do it. You can use it over and over again. Before, when Dave had Surveyor 1 and Surveyor 2, when they were written, basically they were applets, and the only person who could change them was Dave.
He had to compile
And
it
so
for you.
you had to literally contact
She was super nice about it,
tell
but
him what you wanted him to do. He had to do it and send it back to you. So just think if you're a first-year graduate student or have been an undergraduate and wanted to run a study, and oh, that's fine. Just call Dave Heiss and get him to program it for you.
It was also highly dependent on Java versions, and every time there was a rollout of the new Java software, it would break down. And so I had to have a very close relationship with our IT department because they gave me an administrator password to keep modifying the Java file so it stayed old. So that my dissertation research would, every time they did a system-wide update, and eventually that became a security problem.
Yep.
So this
Done.
may look complicated, but once you learn it, it's actually pretty straightforward.
okay.
And as
Which one? Doing it or not doing it? Oh.
Don't change it all.
Don't need to be changed in most
Oh, okay.
studies.
Don't go numeric.
No, because the entire automated system
Oh.
relies
Okay. Then don't do that. Discard.
You've already put it here.
And so we don't have this set up yet to where your data will automatically be recorded in the cloud or anything. The nice thing about
I'm almost
like,
done for this.
data were stored
Thank you.
at Indiana.
They were emailed to Dave.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
It wasn't very secure.
right. I mean, you could. I ran my dissertation studies with that, so they were direct download, and basically that's what the software is. It will put the data right on your machine, so you do have to be very vigilant about backing things up. But other than that, this once you get accustomed to it, it's a much
gonna actually put a microphone on you really quick for
Oh,
the
that'd be great.
recording.
Yep, that'd be fine.
And then
Put it anywhere you
that
want.
through your jacket
Oh.
right there.
Yeah,
Kind
put
of
it
hide
in
the
my
wire
pocket.
and go in a pocket.
Yeah, just hide the damn thing.
You have a pocket there in there? Or is,
Yeah, right there.
oh, great. Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll tuck that wire in.
Okay, sure. Okay. Okay. So this is projected. Just where you put it.
This is just for the camera, so for
Yeah. Clip it anywhere you want. My ear, I don't care. As long as it works. So you're going to get it up, and all I have to do is forward and backward. I think so.
So this is on for you,
Yeah,
and it
it's
just
just
puts
forward
forward
and
and
back.
backward, and that's a laser pointer up top, if you need
I
one.
don't need that. I'll just keep it simple. I'm going to use the podium, though. Oh. Listen, would you do me something? When I starting at the back, I have about 35, I think. But in case it's not sufficient, it's better if they have it in the back.
Yeah, sure.
Wait till I get started, if you wouldn't mind.